Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. We'll start out with a bit of literary, and this is one we had started previously called Desert Canvas. So we have just a little bit left from that and we'll finish it up. Ready? Here we go. Under a hot sun, with just the tiniest cool breeze, we walked carefully across the space, kicking up dust in silence while trying to avoid the spiky plants that dotted the ground. The occasional whir of a camera shutter made the only sound. I kept waiting for Mad Max to step out from behind one of these creations, but instead it was just Hazel and me, a couple of weekend rebels, along with a few roadrunners dashing from sculpture to sculpture. Right, now for some jury charge practice. Ready? Here we go. To determine plaintiff's damages, subtract plaintiff's total wages for the relevant time period from the total wages paid to Mr. Matthews from September 13, 2010 until May 31, 2013, and total wages paid to Mr. Wilson from June 1, 2013 until May 14, 2014. This figure represents the total amount of back pay owed to plaintiff during the relevant time period to equalize her wages to those of Mr. Matthews and Mr. Wilson. If you answered no to question number 5 and defendant's violation was non-willful, then the relevant time period for calculating plaintiff's damages begins on September 13, 2011, 2 years before plaintiff filed this suit. On September 13, 2013, and ends on May 14, 2014, the date that the job of Assistant Dean for Administrative Services of Thurgood Marshall School of Law was reclassified to a different job title with added responsibilities. To determine plaintiff's damages, subtract plaintiff's wages for the relevant time period from the total wages paid to Mr. Matthews from September 13, 2011 until May 31, 2013, and total wages paid to Mr. Wilson from June 1, 2013 until May 14, 2014. This figure represents the total amount of back pay owed to plaintiff during the relevant time period to equalize her wages to those of Mr. Matthews and Mr. Wilson. Your verdict must represent the considered judgment of each juror. In order to return a verdict, it is necessary that each juror agree thereto. In other words, your verdict must be unanimous. The answer to each of the foregoing questions required to be answered must be the unanimous determination of all jurors. It is your duty as jurors to consult with one another and to deliberate with a view to reaching an agreement if you can do so. Each of you must decide the case for yourself, but only after an impartial consideration of all the evidence in the case with your fellow jurors. In the course of your deliberations, do not hesitate to re-examine your own views and change your opinion if convinced it is wrong, but do not surrender your honest convictions as to the weight or effect of the evidence solely because of the opinion of your fellow jurors, or for the mere purpose of returning a verdict. Any notes that you have taken during this trial are only aids to your memory. If your memory differs from your notes, you should rely on your memory and not on the notes. The notes are not evidence. If you have not taken notes, you should rely on your independent recollection of the evidence and should not be unduly influenced by the notes of other jurors. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than the recollection or impression of each juror about the testimony. When you retire to the jury room to deliberate on your verdict, you should first select one of your number to act as your foreperson. The foreperson will preside over your deliberations and will be your spokesperson here in court. If during your deliberations you should desire to communicate with the court, please express your message or question in writing, signed by the foreperson, and pass the note to the courtroom deputy, who will bring it to my attention. I will then respond as promptly as possible, either in writing or by having you return to the courtroom so that I can address you orally. I caution you, however, with regard to any message or question you might send, that you should never state or specify your numerical division at that time. Remember, at all times, you are not partisans. You are judges of the facts. Your sole interest is to seek the truth from the evidence in this case. I know that was a lot. Take a little rest. Let's try now some literary practice, and this is called Trip Slips. Turning our embarrassing moments into lessons and memories. Ready? Here we go. We entered the Italian restaurant, eager to have dinner with a friend we hadn't seen for a long time. When a young man in a trim suit walked up to greet us, Elizabeth kissed him on the cheek. "Thank you for the kiss," he said, "but I'm the maitre d'. Your party is waiting at a table over here." We've experienced many such embarrassing moments in our travels. Somehow we've survived, and our mistakes have taught us lessons we value. We were about to depart from Miami International Airport on a trip to Finland with a group of journalists and airline VIPs. Elizabeth was scouring the terminal, searching for a place to mail a letter. She walked up to an official-looking man. "Where can I mail this letter?" she asked. "Oh, I can mail that for you," the man kindly replied. When we boarded the plane, we learned that man was president of the airline. Lesson: now we think twice before asking strangers for favors. Another incident was more serious. We were walking down New York City's Park Avenue on a glorious, crisp autumn day. Elizabeth had her purse over one shoulder instead of across her body. When we stopped at a stoplight, she realized that someone had taken her wallet. Fortunately, we contacted our credit card companies before the thief used the cards. Lesson: now we carry valuables in zippered clothing pockets. Paul is not immune to embarrassing moments. While out of town, he once put his wallet on top of the car just for a minute and drove off. Someone found the wallet, saw Paul's Auto Club card, and turned it in at a branch. AAA contacted Paul, and all was well. Lesson: now we try to be mindful every moment. We both were embarrassed when we showed up at LAX for a flight to Istanbul 3 hours early and a day late. Lesson. Now we triple check all of our travel plans. Looking back on our embarrassing moments, we can laugh at our missteps. As for kissing the maitre d', Elizabeth is not sure. She'd call that a mistake. All right, we will stop there. And that will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.